He left me because I wasn't pulling my weight. Now he's sleeping in his Honda. Let me set the scene. I'm 34, live in Maple Hollow, Oregon. The kind of town where every mailbox has a wreath and people wave, even if they don't know you. I've been with my boyfriend Drew for 6 years. Or rather I was. Until he decided to dump me for the dumbest reason imaginable. For context, I've carried this relationship like an overstuffed backpack uphill. Drew has never had what you'd call a steady job. He's been on a first-name basis with finding himself for over half a decade. There was the time he launched a gaming YouTube channel, convinced he'd blow up like Markiplier. He filmed 3 videos and got discouraged when he only hit double-digit views. Then came his NFT obsession. He bought into some obscure digital giraffe project, lost a few $100 and claimed it was long-term ROI. And let's not forget his crypto phase, which ended with him staring blankly at a Robinhood screen, realizing he just lost the last of his savings on Dogecoin. During all this, I was the one keeping us afloat. The rent on the duplex we lived in? Paid by me. Utilities? Grocery runs? Car maintenance? Oh me. Drew had big dreams, sure. But no follow-through. And me? I guess I was the dumb optimist who kept hoping one of his projects would finally stick. Every time he looked at me with those wide, hopeful eyes and said, "This one's gonna be different, babe," I pushed down the nagging voice in my head and said okay. Then about 2 weeks ago, Drew started acting weird. He got quiet, always glued to his phone, muttering vague things like, "I just need time to evolve," or, "I'm finally waking up." First, I assumed it was another phase. Maybe he joined one of those weird self-help forums again. But then he started criticizing me. Out of nowhere. Like genuinely nitpicking the most trivial stuff. An unwashed coffee cup. A laundry basket I hadn't folded yet. It was like living with a moody Airbnb guest. Then came the final straw. One Thursday night, I got home from work, tired, sweaty, starving, and found him sitting at the dining table, staring at his untouched cup of tea like it held the secrets of the universe. Without looking up, he said, "Addie, I think we should break up." I thought he was joking. I actually let out a laugh and said, "Okay, what's the punchline?" But no smile. He was dead serious. "You just don't contribute anymore," he said, all zen-like, as if he were the Dalai Lama handing me a life lesson. I was floored. This man, who hadn't held a job since I met him, who thought meal planning meant remembering to microwave frozen burritos, was telling me I didn't contribute? "I feel like I'm the one carrying the emotional load," he added. "I'm always reminding you what needs to get done around here." I blinked at him. "You mean like the time you reminded me to pay the electric bill I already paid? Or the time you pointed out the fridge was empty while holding the bag of groceries I just bought?" I don't think he even heard me. Let me be clear. I work 60-hour weeks as a trauma unit intake coordinator at a local hospital. By the time I get home, I'm mentally and physically toast. So yeah, sometimes I leave my sneakers by the door or forget to run the dishwasher. But I'm the only reason we have lights, running water, and food. Meanwhile, Drew's biggest domestic contribution this year was organizing my spice rack alphabetically and throwing away my entire set of plastic containers because they weren't aesthetically aligned. I should have walked out right then. But I didn't. Because the next part was so hilariously delusional I couldn't look away. After breaking up with me, Drew started acting like the duplex was his. He strutted around like some divorced dad reclaiming his space. Started suggesting I move in with my sister in Portland. Just until I got things figured out. Even had the audacity to say, I might finally get that rescue dog now that I'll have the place to myself. That's when it hit me. He had completely forgotten who actually signed the lease. Spoiler, not him. His name wasn't on a single piece of paper. The place had been in my name from day one. I'd paid the security deposit. I covered every month's rent. The landlord barely even knew Drew existed. I didn't tell him that. Not yet. I just smiled, nodded, and let him spin his fantasy. Let him believe I was the one packing my bags. Let him tell himself this was a fresh start for him. Because when reality came knocking, I wanted to be there to open the door. And oh my God, when it finally did. I've never seen someone unravel so fast. I had 2 options. Flip the table and scream at Drew in front of his new flame, or keep my cool and let him bury himself. I picked the latter. I wanted front row seats to his own downfall. Drew strutted around like the place was already his. Told me with a straight face that we should work out a timeline for when I'll be moving out. No rush, of course, but he and Harper, that's her name, the wine-toting friend from earlier, were apparently starting to plan things. Plan what? A housewarming party in the duplex I paid for? I just smiled, nodded slowly, and said, "Don't worry about me. I've got it all handled." His smug little grin. God, he thought he'd won. The next morning, I waited until Drew was dead asleep. He'd stayed up playing some city-building game until 3 a.m. Because obviously planning your future requires managing a virtual town. I got up, made myself a strong cup of coffee, and called a locksmith. Told them I needed every lock changed. Stat. The guy came within the hour. Quick, quiet, efficient. I tipped him extra and thanked him for not asking questions when I explained I needed new keys because someone here thinks he owns the place. Then I waited. About an hour later, Drew wandered into the kitchen in his ragged old hoodie, rubbing sleep from his eyes like a teenager on summer break. I took a sip of tea and said casually, "Oh, by the way, had the locks changed this morning. You'll want to gather your stuff, you're out by tonight." The color drained from his face so fast I thought he might faint. "You what?" "I changed the locks. This is my place, Drew. Always has been. You're not on the lease. You're not on anything. So pack your crap and go." "You can't do that," he snapped. "You don't have the right." "Oh, I absolutely do." I gestured toward the framed lease agreement on the side table, with my name printed in bold and no mention of him. "You've got zero legal claim here." He spluttered, begged, pleaded, tried every emotional tactic in the book. At one point he dropped his voice and whispered, "I thought you loved me. I thought we were building a future." I just stared at him, as if I hadn't already built a future, one he'd been freeloading in for years. Then Harper showed up, probably expecting another cozy wine and vibes evening with her new man. Instead, she walked into a living room full of duffel bags, a furious Drew, and me standing calmly with my arms crossed. She blinked. "Wait. This isn't your place?" Drew didn't answer. Just stuffed his Xbox into a backpack like it was a hostage exchange. Harper grabbed her purse and bolted, barely muttering goodbye. By 6 p.m., they were both gone. I poured myself a glass of red, sat on the couch Drew had wanted to replace, and just breathe. For the first time in years I felt weightless, like I just stepped out of a bad dream and realized I could fly. A few days later, I heard through our mutual friend Kyle that Drew was bouncing between couches. Harper had ditched him the second she realized he was broke, jobless, and technically homeless. Shocker. But that wasn't the end. Because Drew? Oh, he wasn't done making a fool of himself. Kyle called me that Sunday. Said he wanted to check in, see how I was doing. But I could hear the hesitation in his voice. He was fishing. I cut to the chase. "Drew sent you, didn't he?" A long pause. Then finally, "Yeah. He said you kicked him out unfairly. That the place was basically his and you just turned on him." I laughed. Couldn't help it. Kyle then told me what Drew had been saying to their friend group, that I'd become controlling, that I didn't appreciate all his efforts, and that he'd sacrificed so much to help make that duplex a home. I nearly dropped my coffee. What sacrifices? The man couldn't even remember how to reset the router, let alone fix a leaky faucet. Kyle said Drew had been planning this breakup for months, that he'd told people he was gearing up to take back his life, and even hinted that once I was gone he'd finally get serious about his personal brand. Whatever the hell that meant. Oh, and apparently he'd already invited a few friends to a housewarming party. A housewarming party. In my house. It would have been pathetic if it weren't so funny. I thanked Kyle for the heads up, hung up and stared out the window for a long time, debating whether to just let it go or make sure Drew learned a lesson he wouldn't forget. Spoiler. I didn't let it go. He'd been rewriting the narrative, lying through his teeth, pretending he was the victim of some cold-hearted ex who kicked him to the curb after leeching off his dreams. No, not on my watch. So I crafted a little group message to everyone Drew had been talking to, including his family. Nothing emotional, just cold hard facts, lease documents, screenshots of our bills, all in my name. Even a photo of Drew's office, aka the spare bedroom where he played video games and napped on a beanbag chair. People were stunned. A few of Drew's buddies tried to defend him. He's going through a rough time. Blah blah. But I shut that down fast. We all go through hard times, I wrote. That doesn't give you a license to lie, manipulate, or try to steal someone's home. Then I blocked Drew's number. Permanently. It wasn't revenge. It was just accountability. And it was long overdue. Any claims Drew made about building our life together were absolute fiction. I kept it simple when I finally responded to the lies. No drama, just proof. I dropped screenshots into our group chat, copies of the lease, utility bills in my name, and even a clear photo of the deed with only my name on it, right there in black and white. I didn't want revenge. I just wasn't about to let him rewrite the narrative like I was some selfish monster who kicked him out for no reason. Next, I reached out to a local outreach program in town that helps resettle people coming out of bad situations, domestic violence, job loss, all of it. I donated all of Drew's leftover crap. The broken down desk he swore was ergonomic, the couch he never used but insisted on buying for aesthetics, and the gaming chair he left behind in a dramatic post-breakup flurry. They were happy to take it. I was happier to see it go. And then, the part that actually made me nervous, I called his parents. See, Drew's mom, Colleen, always treated me kindly. She'd send me handwritten cards on birthdays. I didn't want to drag them into it, but I also wasn't going to let him poison the well with lies. So I told them the truth, not every detail, just enough. That Drew had been living off me, spinning lies to our social circle, and trying to stay in a house he never owned. The fallout was immediate. That group message I'd sent blew up like a 4th of July bonfire. Most people were stunned. A few apologized for believing Drew's version of events. Some of his closer friends tried to explain his behavior by saying he was under a lot of pressure. I shut that down. We all go through things, I said. That doesn't give anyone the right to lie, manipulate, or try to steal someone's home. Drew predictably did not take it well. He called me fuming. I didn't pick up, but the voicemail was a goldmine of outrage. He accused me of destroying his life, embarrassing him in public, and violating his right to privacy. I texted him exactly one sentence. You've been airing your version for months. I just corrected it. Then I blocked his number. Colleen called me 2 days later. She was devastated. Said she had no idea things had gotten so bad. Offered to help pay back some of the bills Drew had racked up under my roof. I told her not to worry. I didn't want money. I just wanted peace. But fate apparently wasn't done handing me little gifts. 2 weeks later, I was in line at a little indie coffee shop in downtown Maple Hollow when someone tapped my shoulder. I turned. It was Harper, the new girl. The friend Drew had been giving wine tours of my living room to. She looked mortified. I'm so sorry, she said, eyes downcast. I didn't know he was lying about the house. Or about you. He told me it was a mutual breakup. That you'd given him the house as a gesture. I didn't even know how to respond. But then she added something that made me nearly snort my latte. Last I heard, he's sleeping in his car. Apparently, none of Drew's friends wanted to take him in after they found out the truth. His parents weren't offering a bailout either. Colleen had said something about letting him learn to stand on his own. And now Drew was in his Civic, hopping between Planet Fitness showers and gas station Wi-Fi. Do I wish homelessness on anyone? Of course not. But do I feel sorry for Drew? Absolutely not. He built a house of lies and tried to live in it. Now he's stuck in the only place he actually owns, the driver's seat of a 2011 Honda with a broken air vent. But wait, we're not done. Last week I was having lunch with my sister Laurel when she started getting all fidgety. She kept glancing at her phone like it was burning a hole in her pocket. I finally asked, "What's going on?" She sighed. "Don't be mad, but Drew reached out to me." I nearly choked on my sandwich. He what? Turns out Drew had been making the rounds, trying to salvage his image by reaching out to my family, telling them we had some unofficial agreement about the house, that we were practically married, that he'd invested everything into building a life with me. It was such crap I could barely keep a straight face. But then Laurel dropped the kicker. He asked me for money. I blinked. How much? 2,000. I nearly flipped the table. But then she added, I made him sign something. An actual contract. IOU repayment plan, interest. I even got him to put up his car as collateral. I stared at her. You what? She grinned. I didn't believe him. I just wanted a paper trail. Now I've got one. Signed, dated, and witnessed by a barista. I could have kissed her. Then it got even better. Remember our mutual friend, Matt? The one who first told me Drew was planning the breakup like it was a product launch? He sent me screenshots from Drew's Instagram stories and Reddit posts. Drew was painting himself as the victim of a heartless gold digger who preyed on his ambition. According to his new mythology, I supported him because I was secretly trying to siphon off his future earnings. You know, the earnings he definitely would have had from those failed Twitch streams, abandoned crypto ventures, and $6.50 YouTube payouts. Even funnier? He was telling different versions of the story to different people. To some, I was the cold ex who threw him out for no reason. To others, I was a manipulative control freak who used him and left him financially traumatized. And to a few especially gullible folks, he claimed we were co-founders of some mythical business I stole from him. Oh, and he said I promised to put his name on the deed as a birthday gift. This from the same man who once forgot my birthday entirely because he was binge streaming Skyrim. Yesterday, I got a string of unhinged DMs from him. Rants about how he was going to expose me, tell everyone about who I really am, and destroy my reputation. I haven't responded to a single one, but I've saved every message. Because Drew? He's not just desperate. He's becoming dangerous. Something in my gut tells me this isn't over. Drew has never been great at accepting reality. And now that he's burned through the money Laurel loaned him, no doubt chasing another digital pipe dream, I knew he was cooking up some new stunt to get what he thought he deserved. Last Sunday I ran into his mom Colleen at the local market. I tried to breeze past her with a polite smile, but she reached out and lightly grabbed my cart. We need to talk. Colleen had always been warm with me, even through the mess. But that day she looked worn down. There was something tight in her expression. Worry, maybe anger, definitely exhaustion. We sat down at the cafe across the parking lot. She didn't waste time with small talk. I need to tell you what Drew's been up to. It's gone too far. Apparently, he showed up at their place last week with this wild story about how he was reclaiming his property. Told them he had proof I'd tricked him into putting everything in my name, and that I'd manipulated the paperwork to cut him out. He even claimed he had given me cash for the down payment. Colleen shut that down quick. Reminded him that she and her husband were there when I bought the place. Drew hadn't even moved in yet. But he wouldn't listen. Started ranting about how he was building a case, and asked to borrow money for legal fees to make things right. They told him no. That's when he lost it. Started shouting that they never supported him. Accused them of siding with me, of betraying their son. Colleen looked away for a second. He's not the kid we raised, she said. I don't even recognize him anymore. And then she hit me with the rest. Stuff I hadn't even imagined. Drew had gone full con artist. He'd told his younger sister, who's just 19, that he'd already bought me out of the house and needed cash to renovate his property. She'd given him her savings. He was also going to relatives, recycling lies for anyone who'd listen. To some, we were secretly married. To others, I'd promised him the house as a reward for his sweat equity. He even told his grandmother I was keeping his gaming setup hostage. You know, the setup I donated weeks ago. Then Colleen pulled out her phone. She showed me screenshots of a GoFundMe page he'd created. The headline? Help local man reclaim his home from manipulative ex. I nearly snorted coffee out my nose. The page was an entire novella of fiction. How Drew had poured his savings into the home, how I iced him out, and how he needed help fighting for what was rightfully his. He even posted pictures of the house, claiming he'd done all the renovations himself. The only renovation Drew ever did was move the couch and change the Netflix password without telling me. But here's the thing that really stung: people believed it. Not a ton, but enough. He'd raised $800 before Colleen reported the page and got it pulled. I had to, she said. He needs to face reality. Turns out, he'd been sleeping in his car in their driveway for days, refusing to come inside unless they stood with him. Every morning, he left claiming he had meetings with who? God knows. Every night, he returned with new lies about his progress. Colleen finally snapped when she overheard him trying to convince Harper, yes, her, to be a witness for his made-up house claim. To her credit, Harper laughed and hung up. I'm not telling you this because I want you to feel bad for him, Colleen said. I'm telling you because I want you to be ready. He's not going to stop until someone makes him. Then she did something that stopped me cold. She slid a small photo album across the table. Inside were candid photos from the last few years. Family holidays, birthday dinners, backyard barbecues. In every picture, Drew was either glued to a screen or hunched over a laptop, working on his next big idea. Everyone else was laughing, smiling, present. Colleen wiped her eyes. I should have seen it. He's always used people. Always had an angle. I let it go on too long, and I'm sorry you got caught up in it. I tried to hand the album back. She shook her head. Keep it. Maybe one day he'll want to remember who he used to be. But for now, I've got to do what I should have done a long time ago. Then she told me the plan. She and her husband had made a final decision. They were changing the locks, cutting off Drew's access to their Wi-Fi, and their sympathy. No more car in the driveway. No more guilt trips. They'd reached out to her brother, Drew's uncle, who lived out in Colorado and ran a small landscaping business. He'd offered Drew a job. Real work. No screens, no schemes. Just honest labor and a second chance. It's his choice now, she said. Take it or leave it. But we're done. We won't watch him tear down other people's lives just because he refuses to build his own. As we left the cafe, she hugged me. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Thank you for showing him there are consequences. I just wish he'd learn from them." She walked away, shoulders tense, clutching her car keys like they weighed 100 pounds. And me? I stood there in the Oregon sunlight, staring after her, feeling a strange mix of things: relief, vindication, and a quiet kind of grief. Grief for who Drew could have been,